Pumpkins. Pumpkins are large, round fruits that grow on vines. They belong to the squash family. They are usually orange, but can be white, green, or even blue. This is a picture of the largest pumpkin ever grown. It weighed 2,749 pounds and was grown by Travis Granger. Carving pumpkins is called jack-o'-lantern making. It came from an Irish story about a man named Jack back in 1837. The first carvings were of turnips, not pumpkins. The Irish immigrants brought the tradition to North America. Now it's a popular Halloween activity. Artist Mark Evan and Chris Soraya started the Brooklands Maniac Pumpkin Carvers. They have a team of carvers who make intricate pumpkin carvings for Hollywood, special events, movies, and media outlets. They have even carved famous paintings into pumpkins. Do you recognize either of these artists? There's Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night and Keith Haring's Best Buddies. It's your turn now. Let's learn how to draw pumpkins. For today's drawing, you need some chalk pastels, a pencil, a sheet of scratch paper for tapping off onto, and a black sheet of construction paper. Now, as I go to work today, we're actually going to be putting a couple of pumpkins into this drawing. So the first thing you want to do is decide which side you want your big pumpkin to be on. So do you want it on this side or this side? So go ahead and choose your side. It doesn't matter which side you choose. Go ahead and put your hand there. Okay. So, and then once you decide, you're going to come from the top just a little ways, and with your eraser, you can make a little mark. And then you're going to come up a little ways from your bottom, maybe up a little bit more, and make a mark with your eraser again. And if you can't see my eraser marks, I'm going to put a little white mark for you to see, but you don't need to do that. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and start to make our pumpkin shape. So it's making a curved line and another curved line. And see how with your eraser, you can really put it in. And the cool thing about the eraser is if you don't like it, you can brush it away, but you don't have to actually erase it. So you're going to take and put in your two curved lines. So this will be your first pumpkin segment. And I'm going to draw this in white pencil just so it's a little easier for you to see, but you don't have to do that. You could just do it with your regular pencil. Now the next thing I'm going to do is add in my next segment. So I come right next to this one, I do a little curve, and then I'm going to come down and do my next curve. I got a little bit lumpy there. I'm going to go ahead and straighten that out a little bit. So I'm going to put in my curve. I could have done that with my eraser too if I wanted to. I could go in and sculpt it with my eraser and make sure I really, really like it. Okay. And once I like it, I can trace over it with my pencil. I'm going to do it on the other side as well. I'm going to take and put in another curve and trace over that with my pencil. And we're going to put in just a couple more. And as we do this last one, we're going to come up a little bit on the side. So we're going to drop down a little bit and come up just a little bit on each side. So you'll notice they're getting a little bit smaller as we go. And we trace these out. So next I want to go ahead and put in my top. And for my top, I'm going to first just put in a curved line. And then at the top of that curved line, I want to put in a little squished circle. And then I'm going to take and connect that down into my pumpkin. Now our last step is going to be to put in these back parts of the pumpkin. So the first thing I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to come just out to this outside edge one, and I'm going to take and just do a curved line part of the way in. And then from that, I'm going to touch and do another one, and it's going to touch my pumpkin. And so you'll see how this is going to give me the back view of the pumpkin. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to start in my one that's the farthest out, and I'm going to do a little curved line up to the next segment. And then I'm going to take and add in one more. And so now I have my first pumpkin drawn. And I'm ready now to put in another one over here. Now this one's going to be a little bit smaller and a little bit lower. We don't want it higher up, we want it down a little bit, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and make my first mark is going to be quite a lot lower than that pumpkin. I'm going to make it with my eraser. And then I want to make sure that I'm below my pumpkin. That's really important that I drop below. I don't want it to be up here. I'm going to really drop down underneath. That way if we cross over, it is still going to work for us visually. So I have one mark that's down a little bit lower and another mark that's down lower than this pumpkin. And once again, I'm going to do that same thing where first I draw a segment. And this one's going to be a little bit smaller. I'm then going to take and draw in another segment. I'm going to do that on my other side too. Take and add in another segment and another. And I kind of want my pumpkins to touch, so I'm going to make this be a fat pumpkin. It's a chubby one. And now this pumpkin is going to be in the front because it's lower, so I can erase out my back pumpkin. So I just erased out. If there's a crossover, you erase out any of this pumpkin that's moved into this pumpkin space. And now I need to go ahead and put on my pumpkin topper. So I'm going to take and make my curved line. My squish circle on the top. And my stem. Well, now I've got to make the back side of this pumpkin. So I'm going to come out to my last segment and make a curve to my next segment. And then go from that segment into my next segment. And then do my final one. So I go ahead and play going from segment to segment. And I think I got that a little high, so I'm going to adjust it. That's the nice thing for you about working in pencil is it's really, really easy to adjust. Okay, and so we have our two pumpkins. And now we want to put them on a table. So we want to make sure we go past the bottoms of both of them. Okay, so if we put it here, it won't look like they're on a table. Even here, this one will be on the table, but this one won't. So we want to come up so we're up a ways for both of them. So I'm going to come up to about here. I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to hop over and put in my line. So now both of my pumpkins are sitting on a table. So now I'm ready to start taking in my chalk pastels. Let's make that a little bit clearer. So as I work with my chalk pastels, I'm actually going to start with my yellows first, okay? And I'm going to go into the intersection of every one of them and color in my highlight. So we're going to be having our light hitting directly in front of our pumpkin. So we are adding in value right now. That little edge bit's not going to get a whole lot. So I just go with the shape of my pumpkin. Okay, so I have my yellow put in, and now I'm going to go into my orange. And with my orange, I'm going to go right around them. And I'm going to go almost all the way out to my lines. You'll notice I'm not doing the top shed, I'm just doing the pumpkin segments. And now I'm going to take my red and trace over my original pumpkin lines. So where I drew in the beginning, I'm going to trace over with the red. So now I'm going to take my pinky finger and I'm going to now do my blending. So I'm going to start with my yellows and I'm going to go into every yellow section first, only the yellows, and blend my center sections. Now after I do my yellows, then I'm going to go in and blend in my oranges all the way throughout. And if you find it's too hard for you to use your pinky, you could use your pointing finger too. It just might be a little bit big for some sections. So now I'm blending in my oranges with my yellow. And now my last step will be to blend in the red. So I'm not going into the yellow at all, I'm really working around just those edges of red. So now we're going to go ahead and do a tap off. We take our scratch paper and we tap. Remember with chalk pastels, we never ever blow because it will make it bad for us to breathe. If you get a little smear like this one up here, don't worry, you can just rub it out. Now at this point, if you wanted a little bit more orange or yellow in places, you could totally go in and play with that. Let's say you really wanted it to have a little bit more yellow or orange. You could go in and play with your colors a little bit more and do some adjusting. And you're also going to go to these little sections up at the top and go ahead and just take and put in some orange to them. And then once again, take your finger and do a little rub on them. And then if you want to take a little bit of red into them as well, you can. Now we're going to go ahead and do our stems. I like to start with a little bit of a dark green on mine for my stem section. And then I like to play with my light green as well. You could play with some brown in there too if you wanted to have some brown. If you wanted a darker color, you could do that too. And then if you want to take your finger and rub it out, you can. Notice that I'm cleaning mine first on my scratch paper. So I could go ahead and do a little bit of a blend there. And then I would want to tap out. Now, my next step is my sky and my ground, and you can really do any colors you want for that. If this is going to be a night scene, you can keep it darker, or if it's a day scene, you can keep it lighter. I'm going to do a blend of brown and green on the bottom, and I like to just turn my chalk on its side for this job because it goes on really, really easily. So I like to use a couple colors for this. And after I put my color in, I give it a little blend. And it's nice to take just the tiniest bit of black underneath it. Just a little bit. You see how tiny that little bit of black is I'm putting underneath? And then rub it in with your finger, and a little bit of black goes a long, long way. But what this does is it kind of creates a little bit of a shadow, and it will anchor your pumpkins onto the ground. And now my last step is my sky. And you might want to have a daytime, you might want to have a nighttime, you might want to add a moon. I'm going to keep mine kind of simple today. You can go in and make any adjustments that you want to make. And at the end, I make sure I do a tap off. And my tapped off paper at the end, I can take and fold it. And fold it. And that way all my chalk is contained inside. And I can straighten out my chalks for the next person. If I need to clean them, I'll clean them. And there we have our finished pumpkins. Thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.